So after finishing episode 3 of The Last of Us and replaying the segment of the game it's based on, while having time to think it over, the same conclusion keeps coming to mind. This episode was a waste of a story, waste of character development, and waste of action. First off, I won't deny the impact that the story of Bill and Frank had, and it's obviously a powerful message of love prevailing in the bleakest of times. Hell, even I was feeling its impact towards the end, and within a depressing setting like The Last of Us, it's an uplifting change of pace, not to mention the excellent acting. However, as a whole, it takes up too much of the episode's runtime and takes away from the main focus, Joel and Ellie. On its own, the story of Bill and Frank is a nice, self-contained tale set against the backdrop of a post-apocalyptic world, and if it took place outside the scope of The Last of Us, I wouldn't be so critical. Unfortunately, it felt like mindless self-indulgence on the part of the showrunners in order to fill in a backstory for a side character who was more compelling in-game. For those who haven't played the game, let me enlighten you. After escaping Boston, Joel and Ellie come to Bill's fortified town in search of help, and after setting off a trap that draws the attention of some nearby infected, the pair are saved by the frantic hermit. Bill's reluctant to help Joel with any favors, at least until Joel basically tells him flat out, "You owe me, damn it." Hard pressed by reality, Bill takes him through his little town to where an army truck crashed into the local school in order to obtain the battery within so they can install it into a vehicle that isn't totaled. Bill is edgy with Ellie around and tells Joel he needs to dump her off somewhere and go on his own, lest he make the mistake of caring for someone. He says this in so many words to Joel when he alludes to a partner he once had. We see this partner later when Bill leads them into a house to take refuge from the oncoming infected after the army truck was a bust. There they find Bill's partner Frank, hanging by a noose in the living room with bite marks all over him. Bill is visibly shaken by this, but brushes it off quickly, not willing to show what he perceives as weakness in the form of breaking down over the death of the only person who would put up with him. And after exploring the house, we find a note from Frank to Bill wherein he professes his true feelings. Spoiler, they aren't good. In a fortunate turn of events, they find the missing car battery from the army truck in a standard pickup in the garage, leading us to piece together what happened to Frank after he left Bill. After pushing the vehicle in order to pop the clutch while fending off the infected that come at them from both sides, the engine turns over and the three manage to escape with a new means of getting across country. Before they leave, they drop Bill off at the edge of town where Joel gives his condolences. Bill simply responds, "We're square," and with that, they part ways. All this is vastly different from what we see in the show. I liked Bill as a character and his presence served as a good means of interaction between Joel and Ellie. Nothing major, but nothing unwarranted. Bill's whole backstory isn't spelled out right in front of us because the writers had enough respect for the player to understand what was going on through dialogue and notes found throughout the level. Bill is not defined by his relationship with Frank, but rather the choices he made as a result of it. He's schizophrenic, jumpy, and a tad manic. If the show had spent more time showing Bill pushing Frank away through the fault of his own paranoia, it might have made for better character development. Imagine if in the show, Frank had died and this causes Bill to become cold. Instead of cherishing the time they had together, he lives with regret and curses himself for allowing anyone into his town, which then motivates him to take even greater precautions with fortifying his defenses as a means of coping. Now suppose this goes the way of the game and leads to the satisfying arc at the end when Bill leaves Joel and Ellie, having gotten over his own insecurities in order to help others, aka selflessness. This feels more complete and compelling for the character, instead of just having his whole arc be the story of his relationship with Frank. As useless as the story is to the narrative, I can't say that I hated it. Again, it was a touching story in its own right, but it deviates from Joel and Ellie, which, in all honesty, isn't very compelling to begin with. Joel is nowhere near as authoritative or confident as he is in the game, and Ellie is too confident and snarky for a 14-year-old. The two are meant to grow gradually through their adventures, and both of them learn from each other. Ellie learns how to survive, and Joel learns compassion. The acting between Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey is stunted at best and leaves a lot to be desired. All in all, this episode felt like a waste of time. My only hope is that they can salvage some of the relationship between the two main characters by the time the first season ends. And I wouldn't say no to an episode free of flashbacks. Of course, no matter what I hope for, in the end, all signs lead to Abby. Those are just my thoughts. Thanks for listening to me ramble. I'll see you next time.